Welcome to Boss Fight. It's your gaming guide to late stage capitalism with games, obviously. My name is Seb, and today we'll just be playing Monopoly while discussing tenants' rights and housing advocacy.
Should we do the thing where we roll the die to see who goes first?
Let's roll for it. Why don't you roll? Yeah, you roll.
Okay.
See who goes first, and then we introduce that way.
Okay. Wait, hold on. I want to pick my.
Oh yeah, everyone has to pick your piece.
It's the cat.
Aaron's just
It's 3.
All right, nice.
So my name is Sebastian. I am a native New Yorker. Grew up in the Bronx and then spent most of the rest of my life in Harlem. Currently live in West Harlem now, actually, but was raised in East Harlem. And been a tenant organizer now for like half a decade at this point. Most of my big work was actually done in DC. I lived there for about a year and a half. And right now I'm just currently taking a break from a lot of stuff. But I'm actually a student organizer at NYU. Been doing a lot of stuff around repair, which is taxing NYU and Columbia because they don't pay $320 million cumulatively in property taxes every year.
Hell yeah. I'm Aaron. This is my shirt. I live in Astoria, Queens DSA member, and I do electoral working group things and help out wherever I can. I'm currently a CUNY Law student, 2L. So doing that most of the time, but I make time for DSA things where I can, and I always make time for Monopoly where I can crush my enemies while
He's a slumlord.
cosplaying a slumlord. Oh, I should roll.
You have to roll.
6.
Pick your thing.
Oh, and my battleship.
Your most important option. Hi, I'm Katelin. I use she and they pronouns. Currently, for legal reasons, I'm in North Brooklyn, DSA, but I live in Astoria with my partner, Aaron. I'm an urban planner, CUNY grad of the Hunter Urban Planning Program, and I am on the Green Social Housing Organizing Committee. Which one do I want?
So going last.
I want the one we're done.
I'm Jeff. I'm a comedian and a filmmaker, a video journalist, and I've covered a lot of housing stuff. But yeah, that would sum it up. 5.
Can I be the banker? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Do
it's
it.
fine.
Okay.
I haven't played
Already with the capitalist
in a
tendency.
long time, so I might
No
need
worries.
reminders of how this
He's
actually.
not gonna remind you. I'll try though.
Okay.
I will. I'm not that cruel. I'm a capitalist and an imperialist for today, but I'm not that much. 2 500s. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are we gonna finish this game?
I hope so.
Definitely not. I would just go for whoever loses first, you know?
I'm gonna lose first. I always lose first.
Well, because you're a good socialist.
Well, if I do anything that is not socialist, you yell at me and bully me.
Well, now I have to.
How do you lose? You just lose all your money?
Yeah, and all your
okay.
property.
Well, this is a Georgist game. It was invented by a woman, and then it was invented by this woman who was obsessed with Henry George, who was this land reformer guy, then it got taken over by this, I can't remember his first name, but Charles something or other, who
Probably the cornflakes guy.
Was it?
yeah.
I don't know, maybe.
I'm banker.
Do I have a housing horror story? Yes, I do. I lived in Bushwick for 2 years, and I lived in a ground floor apartment with 3 other roommates. What is that? 7 chance. Advanced to Boardwalk.
Wow.
Whoa.
Gonna buy it?
I'm
That's
gonna buy it.
Means
How much is it? Buy it.
400.
400. There you go.
already buying property, huh?
Yeah, I know. I'm a terrible, horrible person. I'm so sorry, Aaron. I'm so sorry. So I lived in this ground floor apartment in Bushwick. I had a hole in the wall in my bedroom, and we had rats constantly, or mice, I guess. But the landlord basically was like, "How about you guys just figure out how to fix it by yourself now?" And we were like, "No, we can't even see the hole because it's not that big." Then they were just eating through our walls. So I guess that's my housing horror story.
Yeah.
Jeff, I think you're up.
Okay, nice. I sort of have a housing horror, not a horror story. Is at 9.
9. So you're on Connecticut.
And I can buy this now.
Yes, you can.
Buy it. Screw it. No, I lived in a place in Williamsburg, and we'd have shows and stuff there.
Oh my God, was that McKibben Lofts?
I lived in the McKibben Lofts.
Oh my God, hell
but
yeah.
That was different. That was okay. So that's also another one. That was the first place I lived in. New
That's
York.
awesome.
Wait, I didn't have bed bugs, but I paid $600, and the guy that I was subleasing from my roommate, he like basically built a new room for someone to move into. And I was like, great, so our rent's gonna go down, right? And he's like, no. And then one day we looked at the rent and it's like, not only was he not paying rents, but he was making money off of us.
Can end the housing horror story. I lived in Bushwick.
Yeah, that's right.
I probably shouldn't say this, but I was drunk. It was a long time ago. I still might do this again. This is so awful.
Okay.
Is the building still there?
The building is still there. This was a long time ago. Fencing on a door is free. Anyway, sorry.
Great.
All right.
Yeah.
4.
Oh, income tax.
Guys, literally structural racism. Like, I don't know. Well, yeah, so I actually asked a bunch of people in Bed-Stuy, not Bushwick, but for Ian's campaign for state assembly. We posted on TikTok and Instagram. It's New Yorkers, what's your housing horror story? My name is Sebastian, and we're out here in Bed-Stuy asking tenants and renters, what's your NYC landlord horror story?
I keep getting priced out of my apartments. Every year they'll jack up the rent like an exorbitant amount.
Our baby tests positive for lead. Our landlords had told us that there was no lead in the building when we moved in, and apparently there was a lot.
The tile was ruined before we moved in. The windows didn't literally close.
We got our rent raised by $1,000, and we've only been living at the place for like a month and a half.
There's mice, it's an old place.
Mice like to poop on our cutting boards every night.
Yeah, they like to leave us little presents to wake up in the morning and clean up after.
I know.
It's a nightmare building, but everyone has roaches and mice and whatever. But I had to find out that my apartment was rent stabilized.
Wow. After like weeks of going back and forth and them debating like, hey, no, you're supposed to pay for this. Ruined my apartment. They had like a bunch of dust everywhere. They didn't cover any of my belongings. My TV went out. My computer was dusted. That's how my Xbox broke. I was pissed.
That's the worst part.
Bro, what am I gonna do? You know?
And Louis, what's your housing horror story?
He doesn't pay rent.
Damn. And what's crazy is that everybody we talked to, whether on camera or not, had a housing story. It's crazy. Yo, you mind introducing yourself?
Hey, this is Ian Terrell Huntley here, Assembly District 56 candidate for Bed-Stuy and Crown Heights. If you live in New York City, you have a housing horror story. That's just a rite of passage. My name is Ian Terrell Huntley, and I hope to have your vote and be your drippy assembly member. Bang bang.
Yeah, look at that.
Drippy.
That's awesome. The proletariat and bourgeois clothing. It was really interesting because like I had like very similar experiences to a lot of people in that video, especially the finding out that my building was rent stabilized. When I was younger, I'm like a first gen kid, right? So parents didn't speak like English that well. I think when my older sister spoke to our landlord about that, they were just like, okay, well, you guys can leave. We're not renewing the lease. But like it was definitely something that like culminated eventually to when I was a teenager. And I was getting like evicted for like, I don't know, the 5th time in my life. You know, it was just like a really interesting experience. Because like I didn't understand, I guess, well, I mean like what 12-year-old understands tenant law, right? But like I didn't understand like I guess like certain rights. The big like 2019 like tenant law protections and like mobilizations around like tenants' rights and advocacy that was happening at that time was around the time when I started getting into organizing. And so like I walked into like this there was a local tenant association like 2 blocks down that they were tabling for like at a Harlem like festival or whatever. They're like, oh, like know your rights training, right? And I went and there were so many people and I was like, damn, everybody knows their rights but me? Like I'm a fucking dumbass. Like what? And then like I found out, oh no, this is just like actually in coincidence with like a rally in 2019. What was it at that time? A right to counsel, like expansion.
No, that's the HSTPA.
Yeah. 2017 was right to counsel.
Yeah. At the city level.
Yeah. And yeah, no, but it was just like really funny because like I like really started learning about that stuff. Then the pandemic hit. I couldn't really like do as much as I wanted to. And then coming out, like I became like super involved, especially with like trying to help out with like good cause eviction stuff.
Yeah.
I walked in on a rally with Medainas down near like the American Indian Museum. And I was like, oh my God, I need to get involved with this right away. That veered off from the housing horror story into another thing. But like,
No, it's
it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's totally all connected.
And I'm a yapper, so whatever. And I lost money, so that's
Is Aaron ready to start his world domination?
Very important question that can also flow into another conversation that you might be interested in. But should money that we get from taxes go to free parking or is it a bank?
Are we talking about the game or in general?
The game, but
Parking.
Yeah.
Parking, not free.
I have a free parking
That's all right.
horror story. Just my car caught on fire.
What?
oh
Yeah.
man, my whoa, wow. All right, electric company. I will buy it and I will roll again. My block where I grew up, Richmond Hill, that's all free parking on both sides. People would leave their cars there forever. We literally had like we had a decaying car on our block that was there for many years. A very old car. No one ever moved it. And we had a lot of people, families that own like 2 or 3 cars, which I think should be illegal or like heavily taxed.
It should be heavily taxed.
Yeah, because you should not be able to own multiple cars in the city and keep them all. Block up all your driveways, block up the streets, and not have to pay for any of it. Just keep it there all the time. It's crazy. What do you need? I mean, some families have multiple cars, but like, come on, you shouldn't be able to have that many cars and get.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why we need more parking lots.
The idea. Oh no, we don't need more parking lots. Actually, parking lots are whatever. I don't need to talk about this.
Yeah. No, how cars ruin cities is like,
It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's not good.
I follow all those.
New York Avenue.
I'll buy it.
You can give it to me. I think it would be great to give it to me. As a birthday present. No, I'm kidding.
Like,
your birthday recently?
Team up?
No, but he makes me feel really guilty, actually.
Okay.
Because, like, he makes me feel like I'm going against my values whenever I play this game, which I obviously am.
How often do you guys play Monopoly?
So that actually, this is sort of how we got into a relationship.
Okay. 9. Excuse me.
Tennessee. Oh wow.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Must be nice, that property. Yeah.
We're all bad socialists.
Yeah, let me really talk about Latino home ownership. Yeah, let me get into.
I don't know what do you think about home ownership generally. Do you think it's like
Oh,
brain rotting
okay.
American society?
Yes,
Me too.
I think this is what makes like especially like white Latinos like vote for like Republicans.
Yeah.
Like this is like a broader issue because I don't think like homeownership in like New York City is making like people like anti-migrant or like just racist or whatever. But I think like especially in places like Texas or California, like you tend to notice the fact that like with this emphasis on Latino homeownership, like people are becoming more and more like reactionary. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think really the problem is that like, if we're talking about like, I mean, tenant advocacy and organizing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can like talk about this for like
Oh,
hours.
it's fine. Oh, $32, please.
This is
this is why-
you do get to roll again.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is why I need Latino homeownership. Actually, I'm taking back my stance.
Instant turnaround.
Yeah, 30 times 4.
This is why Monopoly makes people conservative. It's like propaganda.
Yeah, I mean, my parents are in a 2-family home neighborhood was built in like the 30s, I guess. And I mean, you can see, I think definitely your reactionary politics can
What
come
happened?
Nothing.
Oh, that's gonna be $16, please.
Yeah, I don't like this.
Sorry, my tendencies are coming out. I apologize.
Yeah.
Not really, but I do apologize.
I can't wait to take clips of this.
Chance. Your building loan matures. Collect 150.
Did you guys see that our drinking water is apparently going to start tasting different?
Yeah. But like just for a temporary amount of time? 'Cause
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're doing something.
Why is it?
But it's so safe to drink.
It's the
safe
stuff
to
that
drink,
makes the
everybody.
frogs gay. Actually,
Just so you know.
So it's like all the water going to be brown for a second? You know how like
No,
you
it's
turn
going
the
to be
water
less
off?
yummy,
Yes,
apparently.
okay.
It's going to be safe to drink, but it's not going to taste as good. It's like basically what they said.
Oh, in Chicago too. Like
Yeah, the railroad.
No
That's
one
what I'm
owns it.
talking about. I'm buying that shit.
Oh my
You want a railroad?
Yeah.
Well, you still have an opportunity
This is how I build generational wealth.
Going
by treating.
By having a productive
Well,
production.
you know, a woman named, so there's this woman named Catherine Bauer who was like a early kind of like housing and like planning person, I guess critic type. And she wrote a book 90 years ago called Modern Housing, which is like one of the greatest.
Wait. Yeah. No.
Park Place.
Yeah, Park Place. Yes.
Oh, there you
At
go.
Barclays.
Barclays.
Updated.
There's a New York City Monopoly that I really want to get.
Yeah.
There's like the Queen's Monopoly,
Oh,
apparently.
I really want that. Yeah, I hope they do good naming stuff.
250.
Naming all the properties.
Is like Broadway gonna be like Long Island City? That's
I don't know.
It's a good
Queens
question.
Boulevard.
It probably would be.
Or like Sunnyside Garden.
right? Yeah.
Right, is it going to be confusing? It's going to be like 42nd Street, 42nd Road, 40.
Yeah.
Oh, that's better.
They should make it
That would be a good gag. That would be a good.
That's a
Yeah.
great guy.
Yeah.
Like all of them are Woodside.
The railroads are the different
Crescent.
like
I do think
Like-
our addresses make more sense.
You're okay. You're on.
No.
In 1934, this lady, like Catherine Bauer, wrote this like really good book called Modern Housing. But at the very end of it, and it's like kind of crazy because it's like a 90-year-old book, but like her assessment of the housing movement at the time, which is like before public housing was even passed in the U.S., which she actually wrote the bill that created public housing in this country. but it was like watered down substantially from what it was supposed to be. But essentially, like, her takeaway is that, like, there is no proper housing movement in the United States because any, like, kind of quote unquote movement towards housing is being led by, like, architects or, like, planners or, like, paternalistic social workers, and not by, like, the actual, like, consumers of housing being tenants. And she was, like, the secretary for this organization called, like, the Labor Housing Conference, which was, like, a distinct group of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Indiana, I'll buy it.
Wait, yes.
Yeah, so is this epiphany what got you into tenant organizing or no?
No, I encountered her in grad school for the first time, and I was like, wait, how did I not know about this, like, woman? And, like, she, like, also just, like, had a lot of sex with, like, basically a lot of the other people that, like, a lot of the men that did, like, housing reform at the time.
She's
And,
like a free thinker, like that's what they would. No, back then.
Like a
Like,
little, yeah.
Goldman, that whole area.
A little. Erin loves this line because she was like writing back and forth letters with this guy, Lewis Mumford, who was like a architectural kind of just general scholar. And like, there's one where like, and he's married, by the way, at this time, obviously, but it's like, I'm not picking between you and my wife, to Catherine Bauer. And she's like, of course you're not. And but then,
I love it, you know, not only about housing, but like also the gossip behind the housing.
Yeah.
She's into it.
That's
It's all
like totally banging.
She's
No,
locked
they were-
into the lore.
they
On
were-
our
they-
couch, permanently, there's a book turned
I have all
page open.
I have like all three of the books about her like stacked on the
That's
table. I'm
awesome.
obsessed with her. But like
Yeah.
there's this line where like she's getting into writing this book, Modern Housing, and he's like, I fucking hate you now because now you're like into it. So like he writes her this letter that's like, I reach out for you and what do I touch? Like the percent of vacancies of like German apartments or something. He can't deal with
I relate to that, yeah.
That's hilarious. That's so like
It's
housing nerds falling in love.
Yeah, but like he doesn't want her
Your
to be
vacancy rate is
Yeah.
disgusting.
I've learned so much about that from.
against his will, but
Yeah.
that's because like
It's great. No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
It informed my politics.
I think the Elizabeth Street Garden conversation brings up a lot of themes about how like restricted our horizon.
Man.
What is it?
Advance to the nearest.
I have to pay $100.
Is it $100?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
At least you
Thank
let it go.
Yeah, that's true.
Continue though. Wait.
Because like our current affordable housing landscape is like really restricted because the city can't raise its own taxes. The city can't pass more progressive housing laws than the rest of the state, thanks to the Erdstat law.
Why can't we get rid of the Erdstat law?
The Erdstat law is like, it's really bad for the city. Yeah, it's really bad for the city, but it's actually like quite good for
Wait, can you
upstate.
explain what it is for?
So the Erdstat law is essentially like it was it's supposed to be kind of like an anti-left law to prevent anti-left law to prevent the city from passing more liberal housing legislation. And by liberal, I mean like what like the average person would consider to be liberal, not like traditionally economically liberal housing legislation than the rest of the state. And like obviously that has a major downside for the city, but I would actually argue that it's been beneficial for a lot of places upstate that maybe wouldn't be getting housing reform at all, like places like Kingston and similar municipalities that have benefited from getting some of those. That doesn't mean it's good, but I also do think we need to have a really strong statewide eye when we're thinking about like housing legislation because like we are the city, but also that's like not the way that housing in the entire state works, and I think it's very reductive to think about it like that. But because of that, I think we do have this like very like restricted and limited idea of like what housing is and can be. And I think something, I have a get out of jail free card.
Oh, nice.
I think it's something that like we can't really expand without like meaningful reform to the way that, and by meaningful reform I actually mean just like total systemic. No, I own it.
Oh shit!
$25.
Damn it!
You get 200 though.
Hell yeah!
Without like systemic change, the way that we like think about housing, because like the way that we treat, the way that we treat housing in this country, and a lot of places, which was like, I almost gave myself a concussion during the vice presidential debate when I heard both Tim Walz and JD Vance be like, housing shouldn't be a commodity, but then obviously JD Vance was like, housing is only a commodity because immigrants consume it, and it was like, can I beat you up? The problem with our housing system is that we treat housing as a commodity and not as a basic human right. But like, what does that look like? I think with younger people, that dynamic is really beginning to change. Like millennials and Generation Z are being put in positions where we're very likely never going to be able to afford to buy a home, thanks to the type of housing market that we do have.
Was it good though that at least they said that on such a big stage?
Yeah, I was shocked. I'm not gonna lie, I was
Yeah.
totally shocked.
But I
That
think
is-
somebody.
Sorry, we just say keep going.
I do not care for like the aesthetics of like a historic neighborhood as much. And
Okay.
like I think this is like a very hot take, but I think that especially when it comes to things like Elizabeth Street going.
like Soho.
No, what? I
Soho,
like it.
I hate Soho for a different reason.
Okay.
Like I do not like Soho, both for the type of environment
That's
it cultivates,
normal.
Yeah.
but also for like as living here, I would never go below 14th Street until I was like 17.
Right.
Like with my friends or anything.
Yeah.
I go to Queens, I'd stay like in Upper Manhattan. I would not go below 14th because I did not like the vibe. Right.
Yeah.
I might hang around like Chinatown because I had a decent amount of friends from there. This is a perfect example. The Paulson Center at NYU, right? It's this big glass building like right off of Houston Street, right?
Oh yeah.
Honestly,
That new one across from the Angelica.
yes, there's a decent amount of organizers at NYU who are like, I don't like this building because it looks ugly. And I think, I don't care if it looks ugly.
Right.
What I care about is the fact that like it's supposed to be a privately owned public space.
Right.
They don't allow people to use it. It was done in a way that violates state law. NYU's currently in a lawsuit because of it.
Right.
They built it like the African Grove Theater used to be there, and now they've kind of just erased the history of that with kind of like a small room inside the center, being like, oh, this is dedicated to like the former land, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that like I don't know, when building the pool, they like almost dug into like the Broadway like station, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
all this stuff like that's like horrible about it. Nobody really cares, and then get caught up on like, oh, but like it's such an ugly building because it's like a tall glass tower in NoHo, and I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. No.
Snake Eyes. Just.
I'm sort of like.
Oh, sorry.
So I obviously am all for building
Give me 100. Give me
permanent
$300.
affordable housing.
Yes.
But I like old buildings
You roll
and
again.
old architecture.
I'm more than happy to talk about this.
like
More than
there-
happy.
To me, like I just get.
Oh
really-
wait, sorry,
Oh,
it's still my
sorry,
turn.
go on.
Sorry.
I get like depressed. It's like for me. There's an example like near where I live on Grand Street. There's this old immigrant bank that was built in like the 18 whatever when like the Bowery was actually an upscale neighborhood.
Right.
And it was designed by this architect who designed a bunch of other things. And it's like this beautiful building. And now they just rent it out. Where am I?
Where on chance?
Chance.
Chance.
You're really good
How
at
do you know
visualizing.
where it is without even doing
You're
it?
both very good at visualizing.
I'm gonna go to jail.
Oh man, carceral system.
Bullshit.
Oh
Fucking
man.
incarcerated. And so like it's not a bank anymore, and it's just like they have like events there. I don't know what the events are. It's just like every once in a while I see a bunch of people in tuxedos coming in and out of it.
Oh yeah, and I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And they have the same thing, the Williamsburg Bank in Williamsburg.
Yeah.
That's for being in jail.
No, you don't have to pay money.
Really?
Not yet.
It's a $50 fee, isn't it?
$50. Next
Where
turn.
did I threw it. Oh, I paid now.
I put it in the bottom.
Okay. Anyways.
Juice roll.
Oh yeah, you can only do it at the starting of your turn.
Oh, okay.
Where'd you go?
Waterworks.
Oh, you better pay me. No. Do I own the waterworks?
No, he owns it.
Yeah.
You own it? Damn it.
Also, you
I
can
own the
jail.
railroad. And I'm in jail.
You can do like rent jail.
Yeah.
A lot of landlords, there's been a
That's a
few
house
landlords that have actually ended up in
So
jail.
let's talk about
There should
that.
be
Yeah.
more, but there's been one or two.
No, it's one. They've just gotten him twice.
Was it just, it's the same guy?
Same guy. They got him twice.
What about the guy who ended up in the dumpster?
Whoa.
Oh, the guy upstate.
I was actually on jury selection for that.
Whoa.
Dead in the dumpster, and he
Wait,
was in
what
jail
happened?
before. Hold on, let me finish my. Before we talk about dead landlords.
Cause eviction.
So, like, I just love old fucking buildings.
Okay, I can talk
Love,
about
like, and so it's like banks. This was a fucking bank, and like they would build these beautiful buildings.
Can I talk about this before?
Now it's like banks
Just roll like.
have more money than they ever did,
You're
and
really
every
upset.
one of their
Playing this.
branches looks like a
Play me
fucking
up.
cell phone.
I'll give you
store.
one of my birthday.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, can
No.
banks at least make nice buildings rather than like a fucking ATM where like, you know, it's like at the very least, build a beautiful building with all this money.
Yeah.
They used to do that.
Can I talk about this for a second?
And yes, I just like old built like why can't this is a genuine question. Why can't we make buildings out of like stone and brick and like I don't give a
Well,
shit.
like-
They can all look like it's a Roman building. That is better than 99% of the garbage. Even these old buildings that are way too much money in all over Manhattan, like they used to be tenement houses.
Yeah.
And now people pay, like, but the bones of it are still more beautiful
that's
than
because
anything.
those are immigrant-built tenements, and the immigrant-built tenements are designed specifically with like a lot more flourish because they understood that those were like places that they lived in. So they built nicer tenements than like the slumlordy builders. No, brick is not good for the environment.
Brick's not good for the environment.
Brick is terrible for the environment.
When does that happen?
So brick is not like energy.
To me.
Brick is not energy efficient.
But you can make bricks out of mushrooms.
You can make bricks out of mushrooms.
That sounds like a right-wing conspiracy theory.
Servicing masonry buildings is that when you actually have to get inside the walls to like fix shit,
just make the facade like it could be like Trump,
down the house.
it could be Trump fucking Lloyd. Other than
No, let's go back to building buildings out of straw, out of wood. Those are the good old days.
Yeah. Okay.
Bricks.
Look.
You're scared of wolves.
I'm the only one that can survive the wolf.
Look,
You don't have wolves anymore. Unless you're RFK, there are no wolves walking around New York.
Authority has a plan to preserve all buildings.
Yeah, but look, all I'm saying is the Democratic Party doesn't want you to know this, okay?
Yes.
They do not want you to know that the wolf didn't actually blow down those houses.
What? It's over your head.
Yeah, it was actually the landlord. They
They
burned down the straw house in the
Insurance money.
Yes.
Truth nuke.
Yes.
Truth nuke right here.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're blaming immigrants and wolves, but that's just
The wolf is an immigrant. Plot twist.
Yo.
And the pigs were colonizers. Let's go. The pigs were gentrified.
They were fucking cops.
Yes.
They're fucking cops.
Cops from Long Island.
Yeah.
It is not the state's job, nor is it appropriate for the state to guarantee profits for landlords. I am State Senator Julia Salazar, and I represent New York's 18th District in the State Senate in Brooklyn and Queens. The Good Cause Eviction Bill is essentially designed to protect tenants from unreasonable rent increases or from being evicted for no good reason. This simply means that those tenants are relying on us to act at the state level so that they can have the protections that not only they deserve, but that they actually voted for and have tried to do themselves. They are relying on us to do it instead.
Oh yeah, I used to work in Hudson Valley, and there are a lot of cities that passed local good cause laws, what Julie was describing, in Poughkeepsie, in Kingston, in Albany, that they said, we're going to pass our own laws because Albany is not doing anything. In 2019, they failed to pass those laws. And then the landlords sued in all those cities, Newburgh, Poughkeepsie, and they said, we are going to try and overturn these laws. And the courts agreed. The judges said, well, only the state can pass these laws. Cities cannot protect their own tenants because we say so. And they did in these really awful cases. A slumlord named Michael Acevedo in Newburgh overturned their good cause law. He has a whole YouTube channel where he documents evictions. Like he records his evictions and he records the homes. Total slumlord. All his buildings are awful. And he's one of the worst people. He calls his tenants animals in front of the Senate committee. He said these tenants are animals. He got called out by senators for saying that. In Poughkeepsie, the landlord sued to kick out an 90-year-old woman from her home, a grandmother, and because they didn't want their good cause law. They want to jack up her rent by a couple $100. She couldn't afford it because she's on a fixed income. Right. She had to leave because the law got overturned. And only now that the miniature version, the scaled back version of good cause passed, have these cities been able to opt into this law again. So it's all these legal technicalities that nobody gives a shit about, but tenants have to care about now because judges have said, well, only the state can do it, so you can't pass the law, but now you can pass it because the state said you can. And nobody cared technicalities except the judges and these lawmakers, and the tenants are the ones that suffer under all this.
Yeah.
And now they finally have protections, and these cities have passed good laws that say a small landlord is defined as someone who owns one unit. Or more than one unit, which has been great for tenants in those cities, in Albany, Kingston, Poughkeepsie, who now don't have to worry about being evicted unless their landlord is literally like their basement or whatever. Right. So it's good for them, but it just sucks how far we've come to get to that point. And now how New York City doesn't have the ability to do this. All these smaller cities can pass these great laws, but we're stuck with a law that's been scaled back with a billion different exceptions. Sorry.
Which conveniently matches the real estate profile of lots of state senators, right?
Yes.
Like, so it's like now you have to have 10 units or more and own such and such, but it's like the senators who wouldn't let it pass in its previous state are now unaffected by it.
Yes,
right?
There was a great New York Focus article I was just looking at this morning, actually, for unrelated reasons, but they went through the finance records. I'm sure you saw this, and they saw, does this person a tenant or a landlord, and how many units do they own? And it showed that the not only are landlords deeply overrepresented in Albany and tenants are underrepresented, also showed, which I think what you're referring to, they carved out exceptions for themselves.
Right, exactly.
They wrote out into the law, they said, we are going to make sure that our own units are not covered by this law.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can continue to jack up rents and evict grandmas. And
right.
Which, by the way, I think we should reframe how we talk about housing. I think we already do a good job talking about the material impacts. We need to start saying outright, they want to evict your grandma.
Right.
This is what they do. They evict whoever they want. They don't care. They will evict babies. They'll evict children. They will evict your grandmother living in an apartment.
Yeah.
If they can sell it to some yuppie 20-year-old who was willing to, no offense to yuppie 20-year-olds, but someone who's willing to pay a huge amount of money, they will kick your grandma to the street and they will not think twice about it. They don't give a shit about them. They don't give a shit about anything but themselves.
And I would like to shout out Michael McKee, housing grandpa.
Michael McKee.
Housing grandpa.
Round of
That's what we call him. Greatest man, yeah. I love him so much. He's so awesome. He's basically this like older guy who's super wonderful and knows like everything about housing. Yes. But like whenever he talks about the movement, he'll talk about how like all his enemies have died before he has.
I got arrested with him in front of Renton. I think we're talking about the same guy. Yeah.
But he
with Jamani Williams.
Yeah, so he came and talked to one of my classes and like told me that I was a very lucky woman for dating Aaron, which is true. In front of my whole class, and I was like, yes, you're right. But also then he was like talking about how the Rent Stabilization Association got its name. He was like, well, all the people who founded it are dead. Here, and my entire class was like,
wait, I don't know if you guys, I'm more in like the social media side of things at this point, but like Chip actually has like a TikTok account.
yes, and it's so bad. It's about how like the vacant
Yes.
Was that where they show like these old apartments that need to be refurbished or something?
Yes. So one of them is basically like, oh, look at this apartment in the Bronx, okay?
Right.
Like this landlord is taxed to oblivion. He can't do any of the renovations.
Right.
And then this big evil state is going to come in and say, oh, look, you have slum conditions. It's not the landlord's fault. He just doesn't have money to renovate. And I'm like, and it's just like so funny because I wanted to do like a response TikTok to it. But at a certain point, I was like, wait, hold on. It's getting like 300 views. I don't need to do that.
But that would be good, though. That would be a good thing to respond to.
Yeah.
It is important to be like, if you can't afford to take care of your property, same reason when businesses are like, oh, I can't afford to raise the minimum wage and I couldn't afford my employees. Then you shouldn't have a building. You shouldn't have a business. You shouldn't have a building. Sell it off and go to a beach somewhere. Relax.
Some of the buildings they show, they're like, it would cost $50,000 to renovate this apartment. It's like, no, it wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, also, it's like...
they want the best for their tenants, actually.
I love saying that.
There's so many people would just be like, if you could move into a rent-stabilized apartment, you shouldn't have to, but it's
like $75.
You'll just...
100.
They raised 200. Inflation.
What?
Yeah.
Is there inflation in this game?
Over the years, they've raised the price of that from 75 to 100.
Oh, I thought like within this game.
No, that would be insane. I would not.
It's raising the luxury tax.
Yeah,
he's taxing the wealthy.
Give me my change.
I am not the wealthy, and I've been hit by it like 3 times.
Wait, how much I owe you?
100 to the bank.
Oh, 100 to the bank.
Yeah. This is Monopoly. This is how this is the real world.
How it works, yeah.
I will say, I think like when it comes to a lot of these landlords, right? Like it is just like a growing pattern now where like they're pretending to care,
Yeah.
And it's like I don't think that was that common even like 15 years ago. I think now it's very much like, maybe not the mom and pop landlord thing. Like I think that was a narrative for a while, but very much the like, oh my god, like the state is just crushing us, and we just want what's best for the tenant. I think who was it? Stefani Zimmerman, right? Ooh. She talked in the Ian campaign back a few months ago. She's like the current assembly member for Bed-Stuy. She said something like, I'm paraphrasing here. I'm not going to give it a direct quote, but it was like, oh, historically, tenants and landlords have had like such a fruitful history together, such a symbiotic relationship that we really have to preserse. like
housing provider.
yeah, like and it's like this narrative that's changing like in response to like the good cause eviction and like social housing or whatever. We're like, oh, you actually need this relationship. Like they're just biting the bullet and being like, actually, landlords are really necessary. You know.
But there's also like on the other hand, you see like people on TikTok. Like there was one thing, I don't know if it went viral or not, but I came across it where it's like this guy bragged about how like,
oh my god,
Yeah, I know.
sorry.
He was ready to pay you 25.
Sorry, I'm so used to shelling out money to Aaron.
Yeah. Now we're gonna owe you $50.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so used to shelling out money to Aaron.
No.
I continue.
There's like some landlord who sort of bragged about how like he kept on getting a new apartment for one of his tenants and like used all of her rent money to like pay the mortgage on all of the houses he was doing. And people in the comments were like, why didn't you just like be a fucking human being for 5 minutes and maybe just help this woman and her children, like be like, hey, you know, you could buy this yourself, rather than just like, he was bragging about how he just used this woman, a single mother with kids, to like pay for his fucking mortgage. He's like, and you too could be a piece of shit, like, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, this is like whole weird trend of like micro real estate investing now, where it's like you can buy like 2% of a property or something and like generate profits from it. And it's just because of this like weird bullshit American dream mentality where it's like the American dream died.
I have a question in the chat.
Oh
yeah.
People are watching.
What's still rent stabilized?
That's a great question.
Well, let me give a story. I was on 86th in Columbus, okay? I was doing like a campaign for something else in 2022, right? It was like a February, right? It was right after he lost. And he came up to me, and I was with a friend who was black, by the way. This is important to the story. He was telling us like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm so sorry you guys have to live under like an Eric Adams administration. Like it would have been great because we were grifting, right? We were pretending to be his supporters. Yeah, of course. I told him I had a red beret at home. And he was like, oh, yeah. And he like the thing that stood out to me is like, you know, like if I were mayor, like your rents would have gone down. And I'm like, I just like that like broke me for a second. And I was like, wait, like, do you like, would you like do like a rent freeze, like, or like how? And he's like,
in the police state.
yeah, no. I don't know. But he then told me like he looked at my friend, right? And he was like, you know, your rent would go down by like $1,000, and he turned to me, yours by like $500.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
I don't know. I think he was like hierarchying us based on race, and I was like, and this is like I don't know if you guys like know the Upper West Side, but it was like 86 in Columbus outside the Starbucks. Like we were just like I don't know, it was like a cold winter day, and he's like honestly, like rent would have been so much better. Like housing prices, you could own a home in 2 years. And I'm like, I was like, are you like going through a mental break right now? Like are you just saying stuff to say stuff?
Mentally stable.
Yeah.
Curtis would have appointed a socialist rent guidelines board, and he would have reduced rents.
Honestly, that's what the Reds for.
No, the Reds board would have been 9 cats, and it would have been
Yeah, I saw him like in 2020. Him and a bunch of people. They were just like guarding a Foot Locker, so no one would fucking see. I was like, why do you give a fuck about Foot Locker? Like that's your issue now? Is like
single issue voter.
Yeah. Save Foot Locker.
Honestly, save the Models on 86th Street. Like, bring that back.
All values will now double.
All values?
Rent's going up. Everything's going up.
There are special rules to this game.
Good cause eviction.
By 8%?
Okay, so I'm gonna buy a house.
Wait, when did you get involved with the good cause stuff?
Me?
Like,
That's part of my job. I was looking at For the Many in the Valley. So I got hired. The ED slid into my DMs, and I
Are you jealous or no? Okay.
Well,
for our 2-year anniversary, we went to the Kingston Rent Guidelines board.
With the other woman? That's great.
It was like, and you spoke. And you spoke.
I spoke because they were saying a lot of lies about rent stabilization in New York
Holy
City.
crap! All values go up.
All values go up.
Houses go up too.
Everything is doubled.
Do you need a loan?
I can afford it, I think. Anyways, 5, 6.
It's like Aaron in real life. Just kidding. Sorry.
6, 7,
Organizing doesn't pay.
9, 10, 11. Oh my god, this is brutal. I hate inflation. It's all Biden's fault. This is Bidenflation.
Joe Biden's America, guys.
Did you guys attend
No, stop me.
good cause eviction rallies?
The one that I went to in front of Rebney, where we did civil disobedience with, what's that dude's name again?
Mike McKee.
Mike McKee. And yeah.
Love him.
I think that's the last one I went to. It was right before they, finalized the bill, or sorry, the budget in Albany and all that. I think that was the last one.
I remember helping make a TikTok for that, and then it never got published. I'm so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at you.
What is your TikTok? I'm gonna follow it.
Aaron's about to do
Oh
something.
no, not like for my personal.
That's so insane.
Fight! 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 Housing is a human right!
And so in Albany, we want to make sure you hear all of the community's voices, that we need good cause eviction. It is a need, it's not something that we want, it's something that we need.
We came to let them know that if we don't get it, we gon' shut it down!
This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully obstructing pedestrian traffic. You will be placed under arrest on a charge of disorderly conduct. If you do not cooperate...
She didn't do anything for housing last year. Nothing. Hochul won't even sit down to talk with any of the tenants' rights, or she's only talking with the real estate industry.
We are sick and tired of the real estate lobby. We should never ever forget that if we didn't pay them rent, well, they wouldn't have any power.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
he's really great. All right. Aaron just paid $1,200
For 3 houses because of
because of Biden
nominations.
How did you start doing the film or I guess video editing and interviews and stuff like that for?
So basically,
I'm not stealing money from you. I'm taking 2 ones because I just paid you rent.
Go for it. Oh, thank you. Okay.
It's got to be $1,000. What are you saying?
So I make videos with these 2 guys, Chris and Nick Libby, and one of them, Nick, came to me one day and he's like, "Hey, we should make a video on the landlord's watch list that the Public Advocate's Office puts out every year." And at that time, it was Letitia James. And so we just started making that video, and we had no script. I didn't really know too much about housing at all. We just literally were knocking on the doors of the buildings owned by landlords that were on the list and just interviewing people and then sort of talking to people. And so it basically there's a lot of interviews and things that I did where when I go back and watch it now, or just when I would actually edit it, I wish I had asked different questions because I literally didn't know anything. So we were all sort of learning as we went. Working on that video and getting involved with DSA sort of coincided. And then basically I had sent the videos to someone at the New York Times, and they're like, "Well, this is sort of out of date now. What could the next thing be?" And then I pitched them Good Cause Eviction, and then working on that video, learning more about it, and then just being with the housing.
Iconic.
Yes.
So good. And
yeah.
Have they even offered any follow-ups after that?
For
New York Times.
We did another video about Minimum Standards Council, which is sort of it's so hard to explain what this video is. It's basically so you can't do collective bargaining in the US. In Europe, all auto workers can negotiate a contract with all auto manufacturers. In the United States, you can't do that because of something called preemption. You have to go through the New York Labor Relations Board. But on the state level, you can create a law all that sets standards and wages for an industry like all fast food workers. And they passed that in California. So that was what our next video was for the Times. But now I'm literally just today exported. So the first video about the landlord's watch list, we had 3 episodes, and then I had this 4th one that was almost edited. So I'm gonna finish that, and that's where we went to Bronx Housing Court and talked to people there.
Nice.
And then we talked to the Quick Evict guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we interviewed him in 2018, and this video was so long ago. I'm now finally fucking finishing it. But he also had a cameo in How To with John Wilson. He's a fucking character.
You find so many characters in all your videos. It's great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So it's about housing court and some people that we followed there, and then this quick evict guy. So hopefully that will come out soon. But we're gonna have to send it to some lawyers first because one of the people that we covered gave us a cease and desist, and we just want to make sure we're not gonna get sued. So we're gonna sort of update it to be like, unfortunately, all the problems that he outlined in 2018. Some of that was ameliorated in 2019, but now it's back just as bad, if not worse, because of the fucking.
Which is the benefit of it being that long timeline, I guess, of being able to say, like, we filmed this 5 years ago, and it's still relevant, right?
Yes, exactly. So hopefully we do a good job of like kind of updating it, and like people will understand what the heck is happening.
Right.
Yeah, because like, what's the point of a right if you can't
use it,
fulfill it? If you don't have enough funding for it, is it really a right?
Right, exactly. So I think they need more funding to hire enough lawyers in housing court.
And same with your, Rumkey, with you use the good. There's a great article in Hellgate you guys should read. I'm sorry I'm calling you in, but you had a great article about how you did use your good cause eviction law to get a lower rent, or at least not as high a rent increase.
They said they were going to come after me for everything I had.
But they knew you were right. I mean, they blinked in the end. They were like, "Oh, we don't apply. It doesn't apply to us," and they conceded because they had nothing.
Yeah.
They had nothing. I mean, the right is only a right if you know about it, and you knew about it because you're in DSA. But unfortunately, so many folks don't know their rights.
Yes.
And what we're hearing right now in the Hudson Valley is that when rents are frozen in these cities, when they pass ETP and they opt into rent stabilization, the tenants. What I'm hearing from folks, the tenants are scared to tell their landlord, "I'm not going to pay the rent increase because it's illegal."
Yeah.
So even when they're told by a lawyer straight up, "Do not sign the rent increase. It is illegal," they're still like, "I don't want to get evicted. I don't trust you. I'm sorry. I just can't risk it," and they sign it anyways. So, is it really a right if people are scared to use it and are scared to, or are not educated about it?
That's why like the unsexy part of like legislating is so important, because enforcement really matters.
Enforcement, funding it.
Yeah, and honestly, that's like part of the like hardest part of like the job for me, I guess. I don't want to call it like a job, right? But like. When I'm out like doing like organizing, right, or talking to people, like I do a lot of it, especially interpreting in Spanish, and it's just like it's so difficult to be able to tell like, I don't know, somebody with like 3 kids like doesn't speak English that well, right? I'm really trying to explain like more complex topics to them. Oh, like I don't know, it is like that not like information gap. Like honestly, like I'm gonna be so real. If like I wasn't like such a nerd about like stuff like this, right? I wouldn't know half of the things that passed like in state assembly last year, right? Like I knew about like good cause, like something getting passed, right? But I had a really deep dive into like, oh, like what exactly are the provisions passed, right? Because it was like really gutted, like it wasn't from like the original, like I guess proposals that were made, right? And so like I didn't have like too much of an idea of like exactly what was cut and what stayed, right? And like that's like really scary, especially if somebody's telling you, oh, this is a new law, taking advantage of it. Right. And you're like, but what does that mean?
At the same time, in my experience, like the movement is like 90% like people of color and women. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I mean, housing movements have historically been dominated by women of color.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just like it's something. Yeah.
That's a great point that you raised in your video too. I really loved where you were like, a lot of these organizers are women and women of color, which I think was a great thing that you pointed out in the series.
But that's also and what they fought for benefits the entire fucking city, and people have no fucking clue about any of this. But it's like the hard work that people did for decades, and it affects everybody.
Yeah, and to that point, and to go to your point, that problem is that people, they're from those communities, they organize those communities, and that problem is that gap that we as socialists need to bridge. What you're talking about, where we know, we as socialist nerds, we know the laws, we know what's going on, we know what's being passed. The average person does not.
Right.
They have their own lives. They're working 60 hours a week. They have bills to pay. They have a family, they have kids, they have things to go to, social lives. They don't want to get involved with a lot of that stuff a lot of the time. They have their own lives, want to focus on. They don't want to stir up the pot too much. People are afraid of like being deported. If they get too involved, they do this, they do that. I've heard many times, I can't join DSA, I'm afraid of my immigration status. I've heard that so many times from people who are afraid of getting involved with DSA because then that might hurt their chances of staying in this country. I think what you've been talking about is really important, where we as socialists to bridge that gap of like, we have this bigger picture that we see of like what we're fighting for, and then our enemies are very clear. We're on the good side, and our enemies, real estate, Wall Street, are on the bad side. We want to bring you into this fight and help take them on. And the main problem is politicizing that work for people and politicizing your rent, your utility, all these things, and saying I'm losing focus. But the main point is like politicizing the everyday things in your lives.
Let's look at a video of folks that did politicize.
Right now, as I'm standing here, 2,000 tenants from Buffalo to Long Island and all the little cities in between. And we are sending a message to Kathy Hochul and all those legislators who feel that they can beg us for our vote and then play us by rolling back the bill. We are here to tell you, no, 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 no.
We're here in Albany at the Capitol for the tenant takeover. We're going to talk to the socialists in office, and we're going to talk to the tenants. We're going to chant a lot. Why are you guys here today?
We're for good cause eviction. We're for TOPA.
But rent stabilization is under attack. Landlords, the real estate industry, they're coming for our rent stabilized units. And it's not enough housing stock to support the working class people who really need it. We need to expand it and make sure that everyone can stay in their homes, can have dignified housing. And good cause eviction would massively expand who gets covered and protected.
According to a lot of the politicians here, tenants don't matter, they don't exist. There's some politicians that even say tenants don't exist in their district. We know that that's a bull-faced lie. So, tell them the truth. Good cause will affect me, and we need it now.
We want to reward good tenants, right? We need to make sure that tenants aren't being treated like collateral damage. Housing is a human right, and it needs to be treated like that.
So that is what's happening today. It's an election year. It's a reminder that tenants vote, they have a voice, and that, we're not taking it anymore. So we are not fighting against homeowners. We are fighting against corporate landlords.
Somos más y no tenemos miedo. Somos más y no tenemos miedo.
Tax the rich, house the poor.
Hell yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Emily. Perfect timing.
That's great.
Whose turn is it?
Oh, sorry.
I had no idea.
You want to buy Vermont Avenue? It's 200.
Sure.
Double, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that was really good. And like you were saying, we have a lot of our assembly members who are in that video. We also have two of our candidates, Jonathan Soto and Claire Valdez. Jonathan Soto unfortunately lost.
Yeah, I worked on that campaign. It was a rough loss.
Jonathan Soto has
That's your sorry.
In that district. That's where Co-op City, which is a really important kind of exemplar of what a future vision for social housing could look like.
Yeah.
Which is the largest
$44.
housing cooperative in the world.
Yeah, and what's interesting actually? It is in the United States actually.
It's definitely the United States. I can't remember if it's the world or not though.
Bro, I did research for the campaign on this. I think it used to be. It was at one point.
It was at one point.
I don't know if it has been surpassed in the last few years or not. But what I will say though is, and it's very interesting. At least in Soto's district, right? It's good. The style of good cause eviction that eventually did pass isn't necessarily very applicable to most of the district. I think only a smaller percentage compared to other assembly districts would actually benefit from it. But what was important, at least to Jonathan, was the that vision that you talked about of maybe not social housing in particular, right? But more tenant-centered, oriented housing that we see in Co-op City, right?
Yeah.
Where
social housing though. It's limited equity cooperative.
Yeah, obviously in a different vision, right? Back in the 50s or whatever.
Right.
But it was still a very similar idea. Especially in Co-op City during this election cycle, there was co-op Co-op City was having their own elections, right? For their tenant board, right?
Okay.
And so actually it got to the point where everybody was really annoyed that we kept knocking on their door because Bowman's team was also knocking on their doors while I was going out. The current assembly member who stayed, Benedetto, as well as George Latimer's people, were also knocking there.
Wait, Atlantic. Right?
And the Co-op City people were ruthless. They would go every single day and knock on their door, being like, "You have to vote." It's we're deciding where the money's going.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, I think that was good. And it, like, Co-op City now is like very politically engaged.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that like their board is like constantly being like, hey, we have money to like circulate. We have like proposals to talk about. And I think like that, I think that's why I'm also so supportive of social housing, because I see how like, I guess like engaged people have been since the 90s and 80s, especially, just in like everything from public 30.
I just paid you $100 for rent.
I was like, no way. I just like landed on something. But like, yeah, that level of political engagement was like really important. And I don't know, like, I think that could be replicated in any like further social. I mean, I saw it in DC, which I could definitely talk about.
States.
No, I had a few when I was canvassing for good cause in
20.
The co-ops around here.
Yeah.
There was
great co-ops, by the way, but they've all gone market, which is really an interesting problem.
Yeah. And there was a few, I don't remember, it was like 1 or 2 times where people, they just like kicked me out of the building. They were just like, they didn't want us to be in there, you know?
I've been escorted out of co-ops. It's rough. They're very protective.
Yeah. They're like, but.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you owe.
You owe me $20.
I owe you $20. Is that the double version?
Yeah.
That's what someone's calling you. Come on.
Final round. In terms of like stronger tenant protections, I think I've been DC pilled here. Okay,
Well, DC is TOPA, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I came back here and I did some like organizing. It was like so hard compared to DC, right? Because like we were doing something. It was another project out on Sherman Ave, if anybody's watching this from DC, where like it turned into like Buena Vista Co-op, right?
Yeah.
It was a tenant takeover. It was done through TOPA, right? DC has some of the strongest protections in the country. Everything from like utility shutoff bans being like down at like 90 degrees, I think, to like making sure that like there's notifications for when like landlords just shut off the utilities in general, right? Organizing would be so much easier with like TOPA, right? And obviously that's one of like 30 different things that we have to pass in order to like make stuff more livable, right? Like green social housing.
Green social housing, we see TOPA as being like a really important kind of co-partner in that fight.
Yeah, just even like expansions to like everything that was like gutted from like, you know, the housing packages and like good cause eviction in general, you know? Like a lot of these things are necessary still for a lot of tenants to make our lives easier, right? Don't tell me I landed on another fucking, oh my God, a house. Anyway.
So where are you? No, you didn't.
Yeah.
I think you skipped it, right? Was
No.
it 9? You were here.
No, it's
Yeah, you're safe. Don't worry.
Yes, okay, and on a good note.
I'm a benevolent small landlord.
Get out of jail free card, nice. But yeah, just like, especially at least for me, right? It's always been like, I'm a big proponent of TOPA. Whenever we like start pushing for it again, I'll be there. And I really just like, I'm a big advocate for that. Because it just makes like organizing easier. And like my biggest accomplishment, I guess, as a tenant organizer was seen because of TOPA in DC, you know?
You take literal.
And also here in New York City, if you're a tenant and want to get involved, email tenants@socialist.nyc. They will help you and have like a training. I think in a week, actually, you can find it when you email them, of course. But
you really looked out.
You know, there's a worker circle. Yeah.
Tomorrow there's a tenant organizer training in Bed-Stuy.
Yes.
At the Macon Library.
Macon Library. Yeah.
Did you have to bank? Are you having to mortgage something?
No way.
I am excited for the next rent stabilization fight. So we need a new mayor, and we need to change the rent guidelines board system, and we need to go beyond a rent freeze. We need to do what Kingston did. We need to not just freeze rents, we need to reduce rents. We need to cut down our rents for rent stabilized tenants like me and you. Are you rent stabilized? I don't know. Yeah. All of us are rent stabilized tenants here. Wow. We're all 4 rent stabilized tenants. All our rents should be going down instead of going up every year.
The job of a rent guidelines board is not to ensure profits for landlords.
Yes, that's perfect right there. That was perfect. Yeah. So that's my favorite reform, non-reformist reform, whatever, working class reform. Reduce the damn rents. And now,
So how Aaron and I met, well, this isn't how we met. We met on Tiffany Bond's district attorney campaign. But how we like kind of fell into a relationship gradually was we would play Monopoly over Zoom during COVID.
Yeah.
And I, with one of our other friends, our friend Danielle Finlay, who is also very wonderful. But he'd beat our ass like every single time and be like very ruthless about it. So like, I don't think I've ever seen Aaron like not do well in a game of Monopoly, and he's like really on a high horse about it usually.
the problem was the doubling. I had to pay $1,200 for those 3 houses. So that all my money went into those 3 houses.
Yeah, and now I will roll my die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Community chest. I go to jail.
Nice.
Oh wait, I'm not in jail.
Oh, you put
Damn it. That is quickly.
All right, Jeff.
I think there's Vaseline.
You're
Yeah, I know. I'm a Vaseline abuser a little bit.
3. What?
If you want to learn more about the Social Housing Development Authority, I worked on a really great report with folks at Hunter College, where I'm an alumni. And if you wanted to join our campaign, howsthefuture.com/take action. And now I will roll my die. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Community chest. I go to jail.
Nice.
Oh wait, I'm not in jail.
Oh, you put
Damn it.
3, 1, 2, 3.
And you owe her
Gosh darn it.
$28.
$28. Keep the change.
Oh, your favorite reform or housing?
I guess my thing would be fund right to counsel. So everyone who's being jammed through housing court can actually see a lawyer. That would be my call to action. But I don't know exactly how or what. I
And
just
make it statewide.
make it statewide
Yes.
at the same.
Upstate tenants. Also,
Yeah.
New York
Okay.
City only.
Yeah.
Upstate tenants need and deserve
If
representation.
there's not a bill for that, it should be a bill for
There
it.
is.
Yeah. And if you're in the Bronx, a lot of the organizations that are local in the Bronx are doing that work, whether it's CASA, whether it's just the Right to Counsel like coalition in general, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of these groups are doing it, so make sure to get plugged in.
Hudson Valley, too, badly needs tenant lawyers.
Can we also say join DSA?
Oh.
Join the
1,
DSA.
2, 3.
Join DSA. That was great. It's a great. So double values. I mean, this is 640.
Oh, are we doing like
600, 600.
Oh, we're doubling.
So I
Okay.
think since Aaron wins, we beat him up after we end the stream.
We tar and feather him.
Hell yeah.
Let's tar and feather.
I'm like Christ for landlords. Like I want him on the cross.
You should join Rebney, actually.
And we'll go out.
Thank you, viewers.
We'll see you soon.